Kevin Porter Jr. because it was announced today that the Cavs have essentially banned this kid from their facility. They just drafted him last year, 6'4" out of USC, swingman. Kevin Porter Jr. JL actually came in with a lot of promise. Averaged 10 points a game in his rookie campaign. They said he went in. A lot of personal problems. He caught a couple of cases. I think like something, some vehicular case, and caught a gun charge as well. Both of those got dropped. But the Cavs have benched him. The Cavs have benched him since, and not for injury, just for discipline. And then again now they swapped out his locker for one of the players that they acquired in the Harden trade. I forgot which one. He came in.
I think it was was it Train, something like that. That I think is his first name. Hold on,
Okay.
Look it up and get it.
So he comes in, he turns up. They say he starts throwing food and whatnot, and then him and the GM from the Cavs start getting into it, and that's basically it. They said they're gonna look to trade him. If they don't trade him, they're gonna look to cut him. So what do you?
Taurean Prince.
Taurean Prince, that's right. Taurean Prince. They gave Taurean Prince Kevin Porter's locker and put Kevin Porter with the end of the bench guys, and he wasn't too happy with it. So I don't know, man. A lot of Knicks fans is asking, what should we do? Should we take this guy on? What do you guys think? Ash, I'll start with you, man. What do you think about it?
I am a firm believer in your contribution to a team is not just on the court, it's also in the locker room. And that is why I think sometimes your talent as a player can be outshined by your contribution to the team outside of the game.
Yeah.
So for me, a guy who is throwing food because he got his locker moved, to me, that's a red flag. To me, that means that when things don't go your way, you tend to act out in a way that's not functional, that's not, mature, that's not something that you want in your locker room. And especially when you have a locker room filled with young guys, they tend to be impressionable. And if you're trying to build a culture of winning, and you're trying to build a culture of accountability within the Knicks, which is something that we haven't had, a culture of stability also, you have to be very, very careful who you implement in that locker room, because that can be your detriment. And I don't know if something, and I think there's been other instances with Kevin Porter Jr., outside of the game as well. I don't know how, 100% factual those are, but I don't know if bringing a guy like that in a Tibbs team is beneficial to what the Knicks are trying to build, regardless of what he can contribute on the court. I think his contributions are not that out of this world that you can't get them in another player who may not be as much as a distraction when it comes to outside of the game. So I don't know if it's a move that I would make.
JLs, how about you, bro?
I'm not on the no side. I'm on the look into it side, because, when you have players like that, depending on how your team is built, you can withstand that. And I feel like a lot of the guys on this team are already high character, high culture guys. So if you add somebody like that, if you have a leader on this team who can kind of calm that, it could be beneficial for both teams. We have a guy here named Mike Woodson who wrangled J.R. Smith, got him to,
All right.
be, sixth man of the year.
It's a fact.
Type, the father figure type. I feel like that's Mike Woodson's bag to get on these troubled players and turn them in the right way and make them, go right. So, but I'm not saying it's a done deal, like let's bring him, but I would definitely look into it. I'm not giving up anything significant, for sure, because of what's going on there, and so I might try to do a waiver wire deal, or somebody we're gonna cut anyway and just bring him in to see what it is and have him be like on a probationary type period, have him to prove himself and work his way up the ranks, because we just have. I mean, he has a lot of potential, He looks like he can create his own shot a little bit. He looks like he could be a dynamic finisher.
Yeah, he shined. He shined in some games last year. Definitely shined in some games last year, for sure.
Yeah. Had like a 30-pointer. So this is something to look into. I'm not closing the door completely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying look into it and have the Knicks and those guys do their due diligence.
Yeah, I think with me, one of the things about this season that I like is that, we just don't have to deal with that locker room drama. There's no egos. There's nothing for the beat writers to really, fester on and let it, prolong the season. Let it go on and on and on, drag it on for the season. The Melo thing is not hovering over us. No Porzingis thing. We're running with a clean slate. Young guys, everybody's buying into the culture so far. As you said, we have Woodson, Tibbs, Kenny Payne. It seemed like they're really fostering a very nice relationship with the young players. So I definitely love to see that. At the flip side, I'm with you, JLs. I think you don't want to slam the door completely. You still want to do your homework just like anything else in talent acquisition. You want to see if you can buy low on something like this. And I think most importantly, I think the Knicks of all people are in the best situation to evaluate it because remember, Brock Aller, their capologist, just came from Cleveland. Yeah. So he knows. He was just there when they drafted the kid. So he knows whether this would be a worthwhile gamble. I'm sure if the Knicks are interested, he would call Koby Altman, the GM of the Cavs, see what went down, and then make an informed decision. But I think the Knicks would be in the best place because they have that previous relationship. And if a trade were to even go down, if they were interested in trading, you never know. The Cavs may even give us a deal if that's the case. But I think they really need to investigate it. I wouldn't, a lot of people put his personal issues out there as a, hindrance. He's 20 years old. Sometimes kids make mistakes. We all made mistakes when we were young. Doesn't mean that that's who he's going to be in the future. Right. Certainly cause for concern. Certainly cause for concern. But I still think you do your homework at the end of the day and whatever happens.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also some other people that we can look into. I think IT is kind of floating out there, and there's a conversation that he could get, find his way to New York. I personally am more in favor of signing a vet than somebody who's a lot younger, just because I think when you have veteran talent around young guys, it instills a certain mentality in them. I think of what Haslam has done in so many seasons for the Miami Heat and how the guys speak so highly of him and what he means to that team. For me, I'm a big fan of having vets in that locker room. So yeah, I agree. I mean, you look into it, you see, if he's beneficial, could he be beneficial? You look at, his indiscretions and things like that, and you make a educated gander on it, if you will. But I think it's also something you have to be very, very careful about.
Yeah, for sure.
Chemistry of this team is clicking. I think the chemistry of what Tibbs is trying to create, I feel like it's working. And I would hate to see, although it's not a season where we're expected to do much, as we all know, we're not going to the finals, we're not number one seed, things like that. You still are developing a culture, and you want to be very, very careful, what you put in that culture pot, because sometimes you can't undo what you do. And you just got to be careful. So that would only be my concern. But if he can benefit and it was a one-time situation, then, everyone deserves a second chance, especially a young kid, like you said. So.
Yeah.